excited as I am. I can't wait to show you the contents of this big, beautiful orange box. It is definitely not one to disappoint. But before we go there, I really think it's important and a must that I break down a little history and background information on the company Hermes and the Birkin bag itself. That way you can kind of understand the culture and the reasons behind all the exclusivity and all that good stuff. So we'll start with the pronunciation. The pronunciation of H-E-R-M-E-S is not Hermes as it would be translated into the English term, but instead it's Hermes. It is a proper French name, so it's to be pronounced in French, Hermes. The best way to remember how to pronounce it correctly would be to think A-I-R-M-E-Z, like air, Hermes, and you'll never go wrong. So Thierry Hermes opened the first store in 1837, and that took place in Paris, of course. Ironically, that was the same year that Charles Louis Tiffany opened his first store in New York City, which is what we know as Tiffany & Company. The Hermes family has always pretty much had control of the company. It's always been a family-owned company. And in the early 1900s, Robert Dumas, who is also an heir of or descendant of Thierry Hermes, took over the company. And he stayed there until 1978, which is when his son, Jean-Louis Dumas, took over upon his father's death. And he is the one who is responsible for the Birkin bag. He was on an airplane going from Paris to London, and he sat next to a lady named Jane Birkin, who's actually a singer and an actress and things of that nature. Leave it to him. This is back in 1981. It took him about 3 years to craft it, but in 1984, he came out with the Birkin bag and gave Jane Birkin the first bag that he created. Little did she know is that the Birkin bag would become the most sought after bag in the entire world. And even still to this day, I mean, it's still the most sought after bag. You may have seen or heard of the Kelly bag. The Kelly bag is also made by Hermes. A little background information on that. It was renamed in 1956 after the actress Grace Kelly, hence the name Kelly bag. Those two are very similar. In fact, they're very similar from afar, but when you get up close, you can kind of tell the difference. Now, the only time they really look alike is when the Birkin bag is completely closed, like all the way, and I'll tell you about that in a second. And they're kind of hard to tell the difference if you're, from a distance or you've never owned a Birkin bag. But the easiest way to tell them apart is that the Kelly bag actually has one handle and the Birkin bag has two. Some skeptics and analysts have said over the last few years that the Birkin has kind of lost its appeal due to like oversaturation in the market and all that good stuff. And my personal opinion is I kind of agree with the oversaturation thing, but I don't really think it's lost its appeal. I mean, it's really the ratchet celebrities that are out there, giving it a bad name. I'm not gonna name names, but they know who they are. Anyway, but other than that, I really think the bag still, whether you want it to or not, is a major status symbol. And it's gonna be that way, it has been, and it'll be that way probably until they stop making it. The way Hermes decided to counter those claims about it losing its appeal and all that good stuff was to change its policies. Now, we all know and have heard of the infamous wait list that had at one time it gotten up to like 6 years, which is absolutely crazy. I would never wait 6 years for a handbag. So the wait list supposedly dissipated back in 2010. Now keep 2010 in mind because that's actually when Jean-Louis Dumas passed away. He stepped down as CEO back in 2007, I think, 6 or 7, and ended up passing away in 2010. Whether you call it coincidence or not, him passing away and all of a sudden the wait list disappearing, I don't know, I'm just saying. Whatever the case, there's still policies in place that make it very difficult for anyone to get the Birkin bag if you've never owned one and you're not already a client of Hermes. And that was set up intentionally. So if you walk in off the street and go in and say, hey, I want a Birkin bag, they're not gonna sell you one unless you have some sort of history with them. Now, what you will be able to do, and what they strongly suggest that you do, is to find one sales associate in one store and shop with that store and that person. Now, there is one way to get the bag right off the street, but you're gonna have to spend a little money. What you have to do is walk into the store. Don't even make mention of the Birkin bag. You buy a few things, spend $2,000 or $3,000 probably, and then once you've purchased those things, ask your sales associate, hey, by any chance, do you have any Birkins in stock? I'd like to purchase one. 9 times out of 10, if they actually have one in the store, physically in the store, they will offer it to you and sell it to you at that moment. It takes like 18 to 25 hours to produce one Birkin bag. Hermes doesn't have a lot of artisans. In fact, only the master artisans are able to construct and put together the Birkin bags. You're talking about less than 10 bags a week per workroom. Now, they have over 280 stores. I think it's like 283 stores across the world. And for that few bags to be produced, that's why it's so difficult to get your hands on one, and they're not readily available a lot of times in the retail stores. All right, finally, now to the good stuff. Let's open up this big box. So when you purchase a Birkin bag from the MS store, it comes in a box like this, usually tied up with brown ribbon. I took it off already, obviously. And it comes enclosed in the duster bag, the one I told you about. When you take the duster bag off, this is what it looks like. Here's the lock. The lock is usually in a separate duster bag pouch, a small one. And then here are the keys. And this is what the inside of it looks like. Not a whole lot, but I do like the fact that it has a zipper pocket. I mean, for that much money, you should. As you can see, the inside, the lining is actually not like a cloth or linen lining. It's actually a leather lining throughout the entire bag. And if I can show you, you can look really, really close. The stitch work and all the work inside is like impeccable. There are no errors. If there was an error, it would have not ever made it to one of the MS stores. It would have been damaged out. Birkin bags run anywhere from $9,000 to over $150,000 depending on your materials, the size, and the skin that you choose. The one that I have is actually a 35 centimeter bag. I think it's the perfect size. I thought I wanted the 40 centimeter, maybe that'll be my next one. But this is a great size. It holds a lot of stuff. It's not too heavy. And the color itself goes with just about everything. Talk about color blocking. I mean, you can color block to death with this bag. This is the stamp that I was telling you about. That is an MS stamp, and this you can actually use to kind of gauge the font and notice and put it up against the imposters. But this is actually an MS font, and this is the stamp that they are currently using on their Birkin bags and other products. The back of the Birkin bag is just really simple, very classic. No monogramming, no nothing, and that's one of the things that I love about this bag. It's pretty wide, so I mean, this thing can really hold a lot of stuff. And then the little feet at the bottom, you can even see the detail on the stitching along the bottom of the handbag. It has 4 little feet, and they also match the gold hardware. I mean, it's a pain in the butt to open and close the bag. That's the only thing I don't like about it, but I kind of do like about it because that's what it is. I mean, you can seal this thing up completely and nothing will fall out, which is great. But let's say you don't want to walk around with the bag like this, which is the way a lot of celebrities, you know, walk around with the bag, and you'll see the little flaps just kind of, you know, chilling, hanging out there. Well, instead, if I'm in a crowded area or there's a lot of people and my wallet and stuff is exposed, I'll usually take the straps and hook them back on the locking mechanism without pulling the flap on top, and then put the lock on that way. This will still give you access to the bag, but it also keeps it kind of closed so people can't really see the inside contents of your bag. This is where the Birkin starts to look a lot like the Kelly bag. Kelly is very similar to this, except it has 1 strap instead of 2.
I'm a dork.